Government has signaled its intent to spend $853.8 billion in the 2021-22 financial year. It comprises $776.57 billion for recruitment of housekeeping expenditures and $54.2 billion to fund capital development projects. It's nearly $20 billion less than the current fiscal year's revised budget of $850.3 billion. While tabling the estimates, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke said the reduction was due in part to lower debt service costs and lower volume of loans to public bodies.
This budget, Madam Speaker, follows a year in which Jamaica experienced the worst economic contraction in its history due to measures required to slow the spread of the coronavirus.
Of the $389.5 billion earmarked for the Ministry of Finance, $272.2 billion will go towards debt servicing. The ministry, which has responsibility for putting together the budget, has also made sure there was adequate provisions to other portfolios for COVID-19 vaccines and maintaining financial stability.
Our task this year is to begin the economic recovery, and we aim for economic recovery to begin this upcoming fiscal year, and furthermore to begin this upcoming April to June quarter. Of course, we're not in control of all variables, but that certainly is the policy intent. Our budget, Madam Speaker, within the strictures with which we have to operate and to the greatest extent possible, is aligned with this objective.
To support the growth agenda, $60 billion has been allocated for the Social and Economic Recovery and Vaccine SURF program for Jamaica. Minister Clarke says $33 billion of that figure will come from the Bank of Jamaica and go to the Consolidated Fund. It's a result of the central bank's requirement under the BOJ Act to distribute dividends to the government whenever it makes a profit.
The government's policy of BOJ modernization is literally paying dividends, Madam Speaker, at a time when we need it most.
As a result, $10.5 billion is assigned to procure special resources for the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Based on the current prices and supply that the Ministry of Health has, we are making provisions for the government of Jamaica to be able to finance the procurement of and the completion of coronavirus vaccination for 2 million Jamaicans, whether it's double dose or single dose, depending on the supplier.
Other areas of focus under SURV include a $31 billion infrastructure program to drive jobs and economic activities, improve productivity, and strengthen resilience. In addition, money is set aside to finance businesses affected by the pandemic, address rural farm roads and productivity increases, and expand Wi-Fi and broadband accessibility. Social support will also be provided to the vulnerable and people who've fallen on hard times as a result of the pandemic. The UDC will receive funds to complete construction of the closed Harbour Beach Park and other activities, and $0.8 billion will be distributed among other ministries, departments, and agencies.
The Serve Jamaica program will provide the foundation for social and economic recovery beginning in the upcoming fiscal year. The full program to be undertaken by the government, Madam Speaker, during the fiscal year 21-22 will be outlined during my presentation of the budget in March.
However, what we know so far is that the Ministry of Finance will spend $12.4 billion on capital projects. $8 billion of it is set aside as contingency provision. This is to support the implementation of new projects that are already approved under the Public Investment Management System but not yet on the budget. To strengthen the business environment, $650 million will be used to carry out projects under the Jamaica Foundation for Competitiveness and Growth. It is funded by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and comes to an end in June 2022. The targets for this fiscal year include the digitization of titling records at the National Land Agency, implementation of a COVID-19 emergency broadband network, and the purchasing and installation of UPS for the application management and data automation Amanda software. Further to that, provision has been made for 20 firms to benefit from debt resolution and/or business. Plus, disbursement of matching grants to SMEs for supply chain contracts. and development of an inclusive growth index framework, among others. Within the new financial year, the government will continue to improve efficiency, management, and delivery of services within the public sector. Therefore, it will further strengthen the regulatory and governance mechanisms for the public investment management system. It will also support recommendations to streamline public bodies and change management processes within ministries, departments, and agencies. In addition, government will implement a new work permit system at the Ministry of Labour and a licensing and registration system at the Fisheries Division. To bolster its technology platforms, access to the government's fiber optic network will be expanded, data center upgraded, and a national ICT strategy developed. Close to $96 million will be used to install several pieces of equipment by the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, train personnel, develop a township-level risk profile, and complete the community risk profile. This will be carried out under Phase 2 of the Pilot Program for Climate Change, PPCR2, to improve climate data and information management. The 8-year program is scheduled to end in April of 2021 and is being funded by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Resilience is also being bolstered in the agriculture sector and coastal areas. This is to protect the livelihood and food security of vulnerable communities. The work includes installation of retaining wall and artificial reef and reclamation of approximately 18,000 square meters of shoreline. Another target is to complete community disaster risk reduction training and capacity building. Meanwhile, the Technical Cooperation Facility continues with the European Union (EU). Among the targets for the upcoming fiscal year is to evaluate the implementation of the International Public Sector Accounting Standards in 14 local authorities. A final report on training to build trade capacity within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is to be done. The $39.7 million program is being funded by the EU. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, enabling economic growth, strengthening public sector capacity and efficiency, and bolstering resilience.